Jacksonville! All right. Would you please welcome Molly Hatchet?
Tell me, Jim, the band Outlaws, they're from Tampa. Molly Hatchet from Jacksonville, obviously Florida, but on different ends of the state. What do you remember about an average Outlaws tour?
I met these guys in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I was living in Alabama, and they had just finished recording their first album. It hadn't been released yet, and they offered me a position. I hopped on a plane out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and went to Tampa, and I stayed there for 30 years working with those guys.
Jim, how about other bands that you were out with other than Hatchet? Any that you could think of? Any nice little interesting stories, little tidbits that you'd like to share?
What brings to mind is my first European tour. We were on support with The Who. They had a series of concerts called Put the Boot In, and that was a great tour. To be a 19-year-old going to Europe for the first time.
You know, it almost sounds, Keith, like the Molly Hatchet when the first time that they played Europe, and you think about these Southern boys from Florida going over. Was that the same way, Jim, with the Outlaws?
It was a good time. I mean, it was a real warm reception. And Keith Moon, he liked hanging with the road crew more than he did like the band and the record people. And he was such a funny man. I still have a napkin autographed from him from a Greek restaurant where you would destroy your dishes after each course, and then a food fight, of course, ensued after that. I had to cover my head. I had hair at that time with a napkin, and he did draw me a little cartoon on that.
Now, I noticed behind you, you've got, like Keith does, and unfortunately, I don't have them. I don't have the gold and platinum albums like you guys do. But I'm seeing a lot of different ones, and they're not all just from the Outlaws. Some of them look like they're from different groups.
When I left the Outlaws, I went to work for Bill Simzik in Miami, big producer. Started working on the Eagles Live record, made the Who face dances. So that's what some of the stuff behind me is, the Eagles, the Who, a bunch of Outlaws. Being able to meet the guys like from Yes, and super nice folks, Rick Wakeman from Yes, having long conversations with those guys was really a good time. I mean, that's every kid's dream, is to meet as like rock heroes.
And Keith, I'm sure that you can share with this, and we talk about this in past episodes of the GateKeeper. What people, I hope, get from this is that they're not just rock stars, or they weren't just rock stars back then as we all thought that they were, but they were human beings.
You're people, and it just so happens that these guys were lucky enough, not only the Outlaws, not only the Eagles, not only Molly Hatchet, but they were lucky to be recognized in the industry that both Jim and I were in, to be recognized to be the cream of the crop.
But as time goes on, Jim, you've kind of done other things. Why don't you share with what you've done, where you've been, and what we're doing today?
I run a place called Lake Martin Machine Gun. We have about 40 automatic firearms because it's a highly restricted thing. So I'm the range master, run the day-to-day operations there, and it's a good time. Next to being on the road, it's the next best thing. I mean, I've got machine guns.
Jim, we had a lot of great stories when you and I were out on the road, and I want to say thank you for being with us on this episode of The GateKeeper, and I'd like to wish you good luck in your new endeavor at Lake Martin. So with that being said, stand by from Studio 1J in beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, for the next episode of The GateKeeper.
All right.